Welcome, ELSA advocates. We're going to get started in just a minute or so. We still have quite a few people entering. Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. Just as a reminder, this is being recorded, so you don't have to take notes if you don't want to, and a copy of the recording along with the PowerPoint will be sent out tomorrow via email. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome everybody to our third advocacy event of the year, which is our Advocacy Day on the Hill with the Senate. Tonight we're here with Lincoln Clapper from Advocacy Associates, and he will be speaking first. I'm Becky Abbott. I'm the co-chair of the NFED Family Driven Advocacy Committee, and I'm also here with Kevin Kozer, who will introduce himself.
Hey, good evening, everybody. Kevin Kozer, and my oldest son, Cannon, just recently turned 7. He has hypohidrotic ectodermal dysplasia, and he's in the process of getting his second denture. So, you know, this insurance battle is ongoing. So looking forward to the training tonight, and thank you all for advocating.
So first, we're going to go through the training agenda for this evening. We want to welcome all of the ELSA supporting organizations, as well as all the ELSA advocates. I always like to mention that this is a team effort, and that all of us working together, the providers and patients, sharing our stories, have pushed ELSA farther than we could have ever imagined. So we just really want to thank everybody for attending tonight. First, we'll have Lincoln Clapper from Advocacy Associates go over the online schedule overview. Then Kevin will be talking about what the Ensuring Lasting Smiles Act, or ELSA, is, the current status of ELSA. And then we'll be talking about what to expect and how to prepare for your legislative meetings that will be held next Wednesday. We'll also go over the U.S. Senate legislative asks, which will be new for this event. We'll talk about the tips for successful meetings, how to stay connected and build relationships with the legislative offices. We'll hold a brief mock legislative meeting, talk about how you can advocate on social media, thank our sponsors, and then open it up for questions. So with that, I will turn it over to Lincoln, who will talk a little bit about your online schedules that you should have received a couple of hours ago.
Yeah, thanks, Becky. Good evening, everybody. My name is Lincoln Clapper. I'm part of the Advocacy Associates team here in DC, and I want to spend a few minutes to kick things off regarding how to navigate your online schedules ahead of your event next week, and some of the features that go along with the platform. If you have any questions along the way, please put them in the Q&A at the bottom of the Zoom here, and we'll make sure to get to those at the end of the presentation. That being said, I'm going to share my screen and we'll get started. So you all should have received an email from us, as Becky mentioned, a few hours ago. It went out around 6 p.m. Eastern time here on Tuesday, October 11th, for those of you that are watching this as a recording. And that would have come from Advocacy Day at advocacyassociates.com. That's highlighted here in green. And within that email is going to be all the information you'll need to access your schedule. If you did not receive it, check your spam or junk folder. It's probably sitting there. If you do find it there, just make sure to unmark it as spam, because this will be our main avenue of communicating with you in terms of time changes, scheduling updates. All of that's going to come through over email, so we want to make sure you're getting that correspondence. Now, as I said, within that email is going to be everything you'll need to access your schedule. There will be a URL in the upper right-hand corner, as well as login credentials in the middle part of that email, which you will need to then log in once you access the main page. So when you click on that URL, it'll take you to a login page similar to this, and that's where you're going to want to enter those credentials that we provided to you in the middle part of that initial email. When you click the sign in button, you'll be prompted to change that temporary password to a new password. Once you've met all the requirements there, just click the send button and it'll launch you into your schedule. This will be the only time you'll need to log in on that particular device with this process. So if you are already on a laptop or a desktop or tablet, wherever you plan on taking these meetings from next week, every time you revisit your schedule, it will automatically log you in like an app. It will remember your credentials. Now, if you ever become logged out or you're trying to access from a new device and you forgot your password, you can easily reset it. There will be a forgot password link on the login page. Just follow the instructions there to reset your password. Very similar to any sort of online password reset that you've done before. If you have any issues getting in, you can contact us directly with a contact link that's provided in that initial email. Our team will reach out to you on an individual basis to get any questions resolved. Once you're logged in, you'll see a homepage similar to this. All of your confirmed meetings will have a time next to them, and anything that's still pending will show up as TBD. That just means we're still working on a time with that office. We've got about 75% of the meetings confirmed at this point overall, which is pretty standard, being 1 week out. Once these meetings do become confirmed, you will get a notification email about that now moving forward. So you'll be very much in the loop here in this last week as your schedule becomes solidified. All times are going to be listed in the time zone you're located in when viewing it, so you will not need to do any time conversions. To get more information about the meeting, you just need to click on it. So anywhere within that red box is fine. That will launch you into that specific meeting dashboard. It'll look something like this. So you'll see the time and date at the top, followed by who you're actually going to be speaking with in the office, whether it's the staff or the senator themselves, or both. If there's been a meeting lead assigned to your meeting, you'll see that person's name displayed here. If not, then this area is going to be blank. To access the virtual component, you just want to click on that green Join Online Meeting button. That'll open up the Zoom dashboard 99 out of 100 times, so you can expect to engage with that platform. If you need to dial into the meeting, you can do that as well. We'll provide those instructions in this area here if you cannot join via video. All your talking points will be displayed in the talking points module in the upper right-hand corner, followed by any documents to supplement them beneath that. If you click on each document, you'll see it will open up in a separate tab on your browser. You don't need to download anything. It'll automatically open, and you can have this open in front of you for each discussion. The attendees tab will allow you to will highlight any other attendees who will be joining you in your meeting. There may also be some relevant contact information displayed there for you to contact each other outside the platform. You can also show or hide this information by clicking on your name in the upper right-hand corner and then on the privacy tab if you'd like to hide that information. You have two ways of communicating with each other in the platform as well. The first is the meeting chat function. So this allows for group message, basically sort of a group text message, but through the platform. So you can see a group chat going on while the meeting's progressing. If you'd like to use that dashboard, you can also send individual messages to each other by clicking on the blue chat bubble. That allows you to send, again, individual private messages to other advocates in the dashboard. On the left-hand side is our report form area. The first one is the check-in feature. Basically, this is an attendance report. So really important to click that button either before or after each meeting because we'll be sending this attendance report to the NFED team after the event. And so we want to be able to highlight you were present for the meetings. You have the ability to send a thank you email once the meeting concludes as well. This is a script that's already been crafted for you. This also will automatically pull the staffer's email for who you met with. You can, of course, personalize it and customize it however you see fit, but you'll see a lot of that work's already been done. You can open and send this in one of two ways. The first is to click on that blue open email button at the top, which will pull up whatever native dashboard is on your device. So for me, I have Microsoft Outlook. That would allow me to send an Outlook email. If you're using Gmail or Yahoo or something web-based, you can copy this with those 3 copy clipboard buttons beneath it. I would say one common question I get is, does everybody have to send a thank you email? I would say probably not. You could just designate probably your meeting lead or your team lead or someone from your group once the meeting concludes to send it. The same staffer doesn't need to get the same email from 50, 60 people at the end of the meeting. So just designate one person to send this once the meeting concludes. The meeting report form will pull up a list of specific questions you'll need to answer. Go through and answer those one by one. You'll do this for each meeting on your schedule. You also will get reminder emails about this if you do not complete. So just go ahead and complete that while it's fresh on your mind. The take notes function is basically a blank notepad. If you want to take freehand style notes, you have the ability to do that. Just sort of a nice way to keep everything in one place. And then you can mark if the member of Congress attended or if only staff attended. So this is just a nice data point that's helpful for the government affairs team to have after the event. So go ahead and mark one of those options as well. And lastly, for you social media fans, you can access your Twitter, Facebook, or LinkedIn if you'd like to launch a post on any of those platforms. It'll ask you to log in with your own personal credentials, but once you've done it the first time, you'll be all set and you can repost on any of those platforms. The meetings tab will take you back to the homepage and you can navigate your way to that next meeting on your schedule. The legislators tab will take you to an area where you can view bios for everyone that you're meeting with, such as this. It'll also include links to all of their social media pages if you'd like to explore those further. The bills tab will highlight all the relevant bills that you're tracking for this particular event. If you scroll down, it also will show the vote history of how that member has voted on it previously. The news tab will highlight any relevant news articles they've been mentioned in. You can read those online. And the committees tab will show you all the current committees that that member serves on. The messages tab will take you to an area where you can view those direct peer-to-peer messages or any updates that may come through to your schedule as well. The directory is a master directory of every attendee in the event, so you can contact people outside your meetings if you need to. And the support tab will be your best friend moving forward for anything and everything support, whether it's technical support, scheduling support, you can't make a meeting on your schedule, all of that should be run through support. There's also a phone number in there, or will be in the coming days, for you to call if there's a time-sensitive issue. The More tab is basically a drop-down menu of a lot of the content I've already reviewed. Take a look at that. There may be some additional resources in there. Specifically, if you are, I know you're tracking a particular bill or bills, and you'll see a bills tab displayed here. If you click on that, that will take you to an area where you can view the bill in sort of a nice, kind of a 30,000 foot view summary. If you click on that bill, it'll give you the summary of it, the vote history on that bill, a list of all the sponsors and co-sponsors, as well as the current status of it. So you have a host of information at your fingertips. Okay, last slide here. So again, check your spam or junk folder if you feel like you haven't gotten that email from us yet. Our domain is @advocacyassociates.com. I'll also drop a link in the chat here, or in the chat in case you need to contact support to get your email resent. We're asking everybody to get into their meeting about 10 minutes prior to the start time, whether you're calling in or via video, just to make sure you get any technical glitches out of the way, and also touch base with the other attendees in your group about roles. That way, when the office joins, you can start the meeting right on time. All times are going to be shown in the time zone you're located in when viewing it, so you will not need to do any time conversions. You're going to get reminder emails 1 hour prior to each meeting throughout the course of the event. This will help keep you on track. It also will include a link to your schedule in it, which will make it really easy to bounce in and out of the portal throughout the course of the day. If the office doesn't join within 10 minutes, please let us know. There will be a help number in the support tab to call, as I mentioned earlier, for an issue like that, but please do give the office 10 minutes buffer to join before letting us know. These meetings are going to go anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes, so just have your talking points prepared accordingly. Any changes to your schedule, the day of the event is going to come through over email, so just make sure you're really keeping an eye on that. And these last three, I think we're all experts at this point, but just make sure you have a good Wi-Fi connection, mute your microphone whenever you're not speaking, and just have an appropriate background. So that being said, very much looking forward to your event next week, and I'll turn it back over to Becky and Kevin from here.
Sure, I was just going to mention there are several advocates who have indicated that they would take additional meetings for the very few meetings that only have 1 or 2 advocates available. So many of those meetings have not been confirmed or scheduled yet. And as those roll in, there are several conflicts that will show up on many of your schedules. And I'm working to resolve each of those conflicts as they come in. So if you see a conflict and there's 2 meetings scheduled at the same time, just try to wait a couple hours until I can fix that. And then it should only show 1 meeting at that specific time. And then with that, I'm just going to open up for questions. If anybody has any questions only in regards to your online schedule for Lincoln at this time. If you have any questions, just drop them in the Q&A. So we have one question from Anil. It said, all the senators show current ELSA co-sponsor no, even for those whom are co-sponsors. I will get a hold of Advocacy Associates in the morning and we can go through which ones are not correct. So I can't see them on my end. So I will provide that list again and we'll see if we can get those fixed. Is there anything that you wanted to add, Lincoln?
Yeah, we might have to do some investigating and see kind of what's going on there. That doesn't seem quite right.
Okay, Sonia, I have moved back to Austin since our last meeting. Does this change my schedule? So I'm not sure what you're asking in regard to your schedule. So you will be in the meetings that you registered for, whatever physical address you used to register, unless you're asking about time zone. If you're asking about time zone, then they will be in the time zone where you're living in. The next question is, if we have a TBD, should we write that senator asking to schedule? No, not at this point. I'm working with Advocacy Associates as well as some of the offices who are still trying to schedule. So no, you should not reach out to those offices. Will you send a recording of this? Yes, we'll send a recording tomorrow and also this copy of the slide deck so you can review it, Janet. I am a Mississippi advocate and have Kristen Cinema on my list. Yes, so many of you indicated that you would take extra meetings. And if there's only one or two advocates in a meeting, we try to add additional advocates so that they are not alone and they have more stories that they can present to those senators. So if you are unavailable for those extra meetings, just reach out to me right away and I can try to find another advocate to add to those meetings. Thank you, Donna. Are there any other questions in regards to the online schedules? Okay, Lincoln, is there anything else that you wanted to add?
Nope, I think we covered pretty much everything there, so I think we're good to go.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Okay.
And with that, I will turn it over to Kevin and he will talk a little bit more about the Ensuring Lasting Smiles Act.
Thanks, Becky. Yeah, so this is just a brief recap. Most of you all signed up already knowing what ELSA is, but just to briefly recap what this bill is and is not. ELSA is a federal bill that's written to ensure that health insurance will offer coverages for the medically necessary repair of congenital anomalies to include oral defects, skeletal defects, vision defects, hearing defects. Bottom line, any congenital anomaly that requires medically necessary care. And the key point in ELSA is that it allows the treating physician, your treating physician, to determine medical necessity rather than relying on the health insurance to determine what's medically necessary or not. Next one, there you go. So we have 70 plus supporting organizations who have been advocating for ELSA. And that's because this is, again, for any diagnosed congenital anomaly that requires medically necessary treatment. So that's why ELSA is such a landscape bill. It's huge. It can really make a positive impact for thousands of Americans, the 4% of Americans who are affected by some type of congenital anomaly. So ELSA was reintroduced in the 117th Congress by these four individuals. On the Senate side, Senator Tammy Baldwin and Joni Ernst. In the House, Congresswoman Eshoo and Congressman Drew Ferguson. On this next slide, you'll see a timeline that kind of recaps the progress that ELSA has made over these last 22 months. So this 117th Congress started on January 3rd, 2021. We had the bill reintroduced in March of 21. You can see we've had a host of different virtual days on the Hill. This is our fourth one in the 117th Congress. And that paid off because on April 4th of this year, ELSA passed in the House with a very large vote, 310 to 110. So it's about 75% support there. And then we held a subsequent Senate Hill Day back in June, and now another Senate Hill Day here in October. So you'll see there the timeline from now until the end of the 117th Congress. It's just over 2 months, and we're in election season right now. There's a lot of stuff that goes on between now and the end of the year, and that's why we'll be talking about a new legislative ask. But the bottom line is we only have 2 months. If it doesn't get signed into law, so that requires it to be passed by the Senate, it goes to the president and he signs it into law. If that doesn't happen before January 3rd of 2023, ELSA has to be reintroduced and we start all over. Here's a snapshot of our current co-sponsors. We have 42 plus Senator Baldwin as our primary. You'll see the solid colors in blue, those are the Democrats. The solid red, those are the Republicans. You might see kind of on the left side, in the Democratic side, a patterned fill. That represents the 13 Democratic senators who are on our wait list. The wait list is allowing our primary sponsors to kind of add co-sponsors in bipartisan pairs. So for every Democrat added, a Republican is added. So that means there's 13 Democrats who have said they will co-sponsor. And in your Advocacy Associates portal, barring any glitches, and we'll make sure this is updated, but those 13 Democratic senators on the wait list will show up as a co-sponsor of this bill, even though their name isn't formally on congress.gov yet. So if you did to do the quick math here, it's 42 co-sponsors officially, plus the 13 Democratic senators on the wait list. So overall we have 55 senators as co-sponsors right now. Becky.
Thanks, Kevin. I'm just going to quickly go through the timeline for next Wednesday, what you should expect. At 8 a.m. Eastern, Mary Fate, our executive director for the NFED, will have a video on Facebook. You don't have to get up that early if you live on the West Coast. It'll be available on our Facebook at any time for you to view. So you can jump on anytime and see that welcome message. Then from 8:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern, you'll be in your virtual legislative meetings with the Senate offices. And I'm just going to mention this again because this comes up repeatedly. The meeting times are listed in your time zone and also in Eastern time zone. So just make sure that you pay attention to both of those. And then at the end, we have a Zoom wrap-up party. So I always say, grab your favorite snack and your drink and just jump into the Zoom party and let's all talk about the experiences you had on Advocacy Day and let us know how it went, if there's any updates to the meetings. And sometimes we have some exciting information to share if somebody agreed to co-sponsor or is willing to help move ELSA forward. So what to expect and how to prepare for the legislative meetings. So as Lincoln had mentioned before, you'll be meeting with at least 2 Senate offices for those who just chose that they only want to be in their 2 Senate offices. For those of you who chose to be in additional meetings, you may have 2, 3, 4. I think some of you are in 7 or 8 meetings. If you cannot attend those additional meetings, please let me know right away, as I mentioned previously, so that I can take you off of the schedules. The meetings are approximately 15 to 30 minutes each. And as I mentioned, we have placed additional advocates in the meetings if there's only 1 or 2 patients, just so that they have extra support in those meetings. Each advocate will usually only have 1 to 2 meetings, particularly in the larger states that have several advocates that have registered. So please make sure to practice your story so that you can stay within that 1 to 2 minutes. Sometimes you'll have additional time to share your story. And then in that case, you can also share additional supporting information. Feel free to write out your personal story, your patient story. For the providers that are attending, feel free to write out your patient stories. Or anything that you think is important for those senators to understand. Use note cards. I usually make little notes beforehand just so that I know exactly what I'm going to be talking about and how I'm going to stay focused on task. You don't need to be an expert on ELSA. There's so many intricacies that you could get into. Just really focus on your story. That's what you're there for. Share your story so that the legislators know how important this legislation is to you. So the event is completely virtual. as Lincoln mentioned before, the online schedule with links will be sent to you, and that's how you will attend the meetings. And you need to access that and review it ASAP. I know that there's been several schedules that have not been accessed yet. So if you can, as soon as you get off of this training, please go and check your schedule and just make sure that you're able to attend all of those meetings. Check often for last minute changes, and just so you're aware, there can be last minute changes up to a minute before the meeting, as there are several senators who could have to go for a vote, or they could be pulled away for something else. So please just make sure a meeting hasn't been canceled or changed. Most meetings will be held via video conferencing, but some of them may be held by phone if the office does not have video conferencing capabilities. The key information, including the ask, will be provided. You need to determine which ask applies to each senator, and the co-sponsors will be listed, as well as the committee members. And like we had both mentioned, we will look into the co-sponsors to make sure that that information is accurate. The team leaders need to review the talking points and materials in the Advocacy Associates portal for the meetings, just so that you know what asks and what information is relevant. And then if issues arise, for example, scheduling conflicts, like I had mentioned before, please make sure to contact myself up until late Tuesday night. If there's any conflicts that arise the day of the event, or you can't make a meeting, please reach out to Advocacy Associates via their online portal. Do not for any reason cancel your meeting with the member's office, and don't reach out to the member's office to let them know that you can't attend. Just make sure you reach out to us. If you reach out to the member's office, they'll cancel the meeting for everybody. So this is something that a lot of you have asked about, and these are our new Senate asks for this event. As many of you know, we're down to the last 2 months, just as Kevin mentioned, and we have a very short timeline. Previously, we were asking for co-sponsors. That was our main ask. However, now we've changed it a bit, and these are our new asks. One is for the co-sponsors, the current co-sponsors, and one is for non-co-sponsors. So the ask for the U.S. Senate co-sponsors is please make the Ensuring Lasting Smiles Act, which is S754, that's the Senate bill number, a priority by reaching out to Senate and Help Committee leadership to express your support for action in the Help Committee or inclusion in an end-of-year package to ensure this critical legislation is signed into law before the end of the 117th Congress. So with the non-co-sponsors, it will be the same ask, except at the end, we're going to be asking, if you are willing, please also co-sponsor ELSA by contacting Senator Baldwin or Senator Ernst. So that is the difference between those two asks. And what I wanted to mention with asks is the reason why we're shifting our messaging is we were asking for the Help Committee to take up the bill. However, the Help Committee may not have hearings before the end of the year. So we feel that it's in our best interest and maybe the best path forward for ELSA to be included in one of those end of year packages. And as you can imagine, there are thousands upon thousands of bills trying to vie for a place in one of those packages. So we need to stand out, and we need to share this message so that all of the Senate offices understand how important it is to make this bill a priority so we can get included in one of those end of year packages. So tips for successful meetings. Your unique and powerful story. I always like to mention that the number one tool to garnering support for ELSA is your own personal story. That is why ELSA has been so successful and has been able to move through Congress, is because of all of our advocates sharing their stories and their patient stories. Always make sure to speak from your heart and share anything that you are comfortable sharing. So if you're comfortable sharing how your congenital anomaly impacts your life, or the struggles that you go through with insurance coverage, go ahead, share anything that you think is appropriate and will better explain to your senator why they should make ELSA a priority and why they should get it passed this year. And as I mentioned before, make sure you use notes if you feel uncomfortable. Use notes to share your story, and it's actually encouraged just so that you stay focused and on task. Some other helpful meeting tips is try to arrive at least 5 minutes early. Sometimes if you have extra time, you can arrive 10 minutes early. However, I know a lot of you have back-to-back meetings all day. So arriving 10 minutes early just isn't going to work. So just try to arrive at least 5 minutes early. The team leader should facilitate the flow of the meeting. Make sure you know who is in those meetings, as well as who will be talking. And then the team leader should begin and end those meetings. Set expectations, make sure you mention, we only have 15 minutes or we only have 20 minutes for this call. So we want to make sure that office knows we only have 15 minutes, let's get started and let's share our stories. Please mute your line when you're not speaking, especially if you have small children in the room. We 100% encourage children to be there. I bring my kids, they're loud in the background. If they're going to be there, just make sure that you mute your line, or if you're doing work or whatever you're doing, please just mute your line so that the Senate office can hear whoever's speaking. Please prioritize constituents of whatever state you're in. So if you are in Missouri and you're attending a California meeting, make sure that everybody from California speaks first. And if there isn't enough time, you might not be able to share your story. Focus on ELSA. Don't discuss other legislation or political issues. There's a lot of different wonderful bills out there right now, but we're not there to talk about those other wonderful bills. We're only here to talk about the Ensuring Lasting Smiles Act. Take notes on the comments or questions that the staff have, and make sure that you fill out the forms afterwards so that we understand, or the advocacy committee understands how to respond to questions that we may get. Please make sure to be kind, as most staff and members have a very busy day. We want to stand out in the crowd and we want to relax, have fun, and stay positive.
So after your meetings, we got to keep working, right? I think I focus on this a lot in past trainings, but immediately after, complete the survey, like Becky said, within 24 hours, email the staff and thank them. I know Lincoln said, the staff doesn't need 20, 30 emails. A lot of these meetings are smaller. I assume for California and New York, they're probably going to be pretty large. But feel free that we have the tool. This is the time in these next 2 months that we need the staff to hear from our advocates. So use that tool to email the staff and thank them for the meeting. Send any additional information, pictures of your family, anything that you might have that you think could be a good memory for them when they're thinking about ELSA. If you don't hear back from them, don't worry too much. These staffers are extremely busy. Sometimes you'll get a reply to your email 2 or 3 or 4 weeks later. That's just the nature of the beast in DC at this point. But do follow up. Be polite in how you follow up. But follow up every 1 or 2 weeks, especially now. I would say probably weekly. Just politely ask, just want to check in on how your review is going. Do you have any questions for me? I can be a resource for you, etc. Be persistent, positive, patient, and passionate. Be kind. Don't argue. Some offices are going to likely will bring up questions that seem divisive or targeted at you. So just be polite, don't argue, just educate. If you don't know the answer, it's okay. Just let them know that you will jot down their question and somebody will follow up with them to address their specific question. Share, like I said, share updates. Thousands of pieces of legislation. Again, I always do this. I checked congress.gov today. Almost 17,000 bills have been introduced in the last 22 months. Only 1,500 have passed one chamber. So that's where ELSA stands. We have passed the House. We're in that 9% of bills that have passed one chamber. But to put into perspective, so far in the last 22 months, only 192 bills have been signed into law. So that's just over 1%. We're trying to get into that 1%, but it's going to require a lot of work for these next couple of weeks. And we're hoping that October 19th will make the difference for ELSA. And we'll talk a little bit about social media later, I think, if that's right, Becky. Yeah. So we'll talk about that later. What if an office says no? This is definitely going to happen. It's health insurance. It's healthcare in general. It's a very divisive topic on the Hill. There's no way around that. So we absolutely expect some offices to say no. Some of them have already told you no, and we know who those are. But you still want to thank them for clarifying their stance, ask for the reasons that he or she won't support ELSA. So take the notes, put them into the survey after the meeting, find out what are their actual concerns. And the second bullet point, it's really important. We've added some content to the Advocacy Associates portal for some of the frequently asked questions. I already saw one this evening about cost. Use the talking points. I'll share some of those specific ones later. But yeah, use those if they're applicable to the concern that the senator or their staff bring up. And then lastly, always ask if you can still stay in touch with the office and share updates on the bill and your family. All right, so here we're going to go into a very, very brief mock legislative meeting. Becky, am I going to be the senator?
Yep.
Okay, cool. All right, sounds good. If you want to start.
Sounds good. So thank you, Senator Kosher, for meeting with us today. We're really thankful that you're a co-sponsor, and we're here with a little bit of a different ask. But first of all, I wanted to tell you why we're here today. We're a broad coalition of different organizations who are all advocating for the Ensuring Lasting Smiles Act, which is Bill S754. The reason why I'm advocating today is because my son was born with ectodermal dysplasias, which is a rare congenital anomaly. He's missing many of his teeth. And we have received several insurance denials for medically necessary treatments, which is important for him to be able to chew and speak and eat. So we're here today just to talk to you about this bill. Right now, the bill has garnered about 317 co-sponsors in the House, 42 in the Senate, and we're really excited that the bill passed in the U.S. House of Representatives on April 4th with a 310 to 110 vote. Yeah, I just wanted to really talk to you about it and let all of the other advocates explain, why this bill is important to them. But first of all, I just wanted to ask you if you have any questions, about why we're here, or if you have any updates for us at all from your office.
Sure. Well, like you said, as a co-sponsor of this bill, I think it's a great one. Happy to support it. Just wanted to ask kind of where does the bill stand? Where are we at with Help Committee or Senate action?
Yeah, so actually, that's a great question, and it goes right along with our ask. So as of right now, there hasn't been any Help Committee action, and we are still asking for you to make this bill a priority and to reach out to either or both the Help Committee leadership as well as Senate leadership and ask them to either move the bill through the Help Committee or include the Ensuring Lasting Smiles Act in an end of year package. We think that either one of those paths is the best way for ELSA to move forward and to be passed before the end of the year. If it isn't passed before the end of the year, then we're going to have to start all over again. And we believe that our advocates have been waiting long enough and been advocating long enough that this should be made a priority so that it does get passed.
Sure. Okay, that's fair. And since I'm not on the Help Committee, I don't have any direct input to what they decide to do, but I am colleagues with Senator Murray and Senator Burr, so I could definitely pass on a good word to them about this bill. Do you know of any issues that have arisen about ELSA from other offices?
Yeah, I personally don't know of any other issues. I know that in one of the other meetings I was in, there was a question about if this bill was disease specific. The bill is not disease specific. It does cover all congenital anomalies as long as the treatment is medically necessary. But other than that, I have not heard of any issues that have come up in the meetings I've been in.
Great. Well, I appreciate that information.
So with that, I just wanted to allow the other advocates to share their stories. And after they share their stories, just once again, we wanted to ask if there's any other information you need. I'd be happy to be a resource for you if you have any questions in the future. But once again, we're really just asking you to make ELSA a priority. It's been a long road for our families. We're already struggling to get the coverage for the medically necessary treatments our loved one needs. And we are just really asking you to make this a priority. And when the time comes that those discussions happen on Capitol Hill about the year-end packages, we're asking that you choose the Ensuring Lasting Smiles Act as a priority to be included in those packages.
Perfect. Well, I appreciate that. I'll definitely keep that in mind. And like I said, I'll be sure to reach out to at least the Health Committee leadership and the Senate leadership with Senator Schumer and McConnell, so we can see what we can do with this one.
That would be great. We would really appreciate that. But thank you so much for taking the time. Are you in DC today, or are you at home in Virginia?
Home in Virginia. This is election season, so we're always out and about going to visit people.
Well, enjoy the rest of the 117th Congress, and we hope that we'll be able to get this across the finish line. Could we take a real quick picture before the meeting ends?
Definitely.
Okay. We'll take a picture quick, smile. Well, thank you.
Cool. Thank you very much.
Follow up with you. Thank you. So next we're going to talk about advocating on social media. Social media is one of the easiest ways to share about the Ensuring Lasting Smiles Act and to catch the eye of certain Senate offices who we're trying to garner support from, as well as an easy way for your friends and family to share that they're advocating for ELSA as well. We will have a new sign for this event, and that's usually posted in most of the different advocacy posts that we have on Facebook, as well as in the news advocacy newsletter and the different emails that are going out about Advocacy Day. So if each of you could just take a picture and post it on Advocacy Day and use the appropriate hashtags, as well as tag your senators that you're looking to garner support from, that would be absolutely amazing. So these are just a couple of examples of how you can advocate on social media. If you have a picture of yourself and your legislator, or if you just have a picture of your family, or you can use the I Advocate for ELSA sign. Those are all really easy images to use in your posts. Just make sure that you search for the correct post. Some of the offices have different variations. Some only post the name of the senator, but some of them actually use U.S. Senator or Senator in front of their name. So just make sure that you're using the appropriate tag if you're tagging your senator. Make sure that you use hashtag Ensuring Lasting Smiles and hashtag NFED on the Hill 2022. We use some of your posts and we reshare them during the day, particularly if you are tagging your legislators. So just please make sure to use those hashtags so we can find your posts easily. As I mentioned, make sure you tag your senator if you can, and then also include a picture or graphic just so that it more easily catches their eye. Create your own post, or you can go on to your senator's social media accounts and you can post a comment in their comments. Just make sure that if you do that, to be kind, remain polite and positive. We don't want to go on there and talk about the Ensuring Lasting Smiles Act and then also make disparaging comments about legislation that you don't agree with. And then also ask your family and friends, colleagues, anybody who's willing to like and repost so we can get extra likes on those posts. And yeah, that's, I have to just mention, this is one of the easiest ways to catch legislators' eyes, because many of their staffers are continuously going onto social media and looking for tags. So I would just really encourage you to take a couple minutes on Hill Day or even before that to do this. This is our third event this year, and it consumes our time and our effort and everything that we need to do just to hold one event. But to hold 3 events is beyond anything we've ever done. And to be able to hold 3 events, we need your support and sponsors. So we really want to thank everybody who has participated in these events and also sponsored these events. There are families along with organizations who have sponsored all 3 events. So we are unbelievably grateful to each and every one of you for supporting these so that we can invite all of the other ELSA supporting organizations to join us on the Hill. So this is Kevin's email address and my email address. Feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions. And then I just wanted to end by saying thank you for supporting all of us. Thank you for advocating for ELSA. And I truly believe that the group that's on here tonight is going to push ELSA over the edge here, and that we're going to be able to get it passed before the end of the year. You all saw what happened with our first event at the beginning of the year. I believe that is why ELSA passed in the House. And I think that with everybody joining together for this event and sharing their stories and really asking your senators to make this a priority, that we can get this passed before the end of the year. So with that, I'm going to open it up to any questions. I see that we have some questions here at the Q&A. Kevin, I'm just going to read them off, and if you want to jump in here, you can. So will we get an analysis of who needs to be swayed? Who is on the line that we need to convince? So I'll let Kevin jump in here, but first of all, I was going to say we need to convince 100 senators in the Senate. I don't think we can leave anybody out. We need as many votes as possible if the bill gets to a vote. So I would say all 100, but particularly we need to get the Help Committee, the ranking members, and then also the Senate leadership, which is Senator Schumer, Senator McConnell, Senator Burr, and Senator Murray, to push this forward. Go ahead, Kevin.
Yeah, exactly. I think what's really important, and if you were following the House vote, we saw what happens. Being a co-sponsor of ELSA is a great tangible show of support for the concept of the bill. Some people flipped, and even though they were co-sponsors of the House bill, they voted against it because of various reasons and some misinformation that came out that day. So we can't take anybody for granted at this point. We need all 100 senators to really emphasize ELSA and prioritize it for action moving forward. Obviously, yeah, like Becky said, if they're on the Help Committee, they're doubly important. If they're leadership, so Majority Leader Senator Schumer in New York, Senator McConnell in Kentucky, and then the Help Committee leadership, Senator Murray in Washington, and Senator Burr in North Carolina. You know, if I had to pinpoint certain individuals, those four really hold the key to see whether ELSA moves or not. But yes, everybody needs to be prioritized at this point. You won't be getting any type of, individual readout and hour analysis of individual Senate offices. It would just be too difficult for us to dive into that. But, share your story, just make the same request that we had during this presentation. If they have questions, if they show any inkling that they're supportive, really urge them to reach out to those four individuals and prioritize ELSA.
And I also wanted to add to that, those four senators should only hear from constituents. So if you live in California, don't reach out to Senator McConnell. He does not want to hear from you. He only wants to hear from his constituents. And that will just cause additional problems. So as much as you would all love to help and reach out to those offices, please don't. It just means that the families that are in those offices, that in those districts or in those states, that it's up to you to really push it forward in your state. The next question is, you may have answered this, but are you expecting help to mark this up or move it without a markup? If so, what package are you envisioning this being in? How does Help Minority Majority feel about moving this forward without regular order?
Yeah, so sure. So at this point, it's really late in the year. The next couple of weeks, all the way through Election Day, the Senate is essentially in recess. They're out of session. They're traveling in their home states, campaigning. Very few people are left in Washington at this point. So the opportunities for a Help Committee markup are very slim, to put it, to be honest. So that's why we revised the legislative ask to also talk about the end of year package. At this point, any moving vehicle is a viable option for ELSA. We do not have any target in mind at this point, but Senator Baldwin and Senator Ernst's offices are talking about this. they would know best. We're not going to be the people to say, hey, you need to include ELSA in this one specific package. That's not our role. We're not, we're advocates. We're not lobbyists. So that we're leaving that up to the primary sponsors to figure out which one would be the best vehicle when that time comes. And how does the HELP majority and minority feel about this? Majority is very supportive. Senator Murr's office is very supportive. Senator Burr's office it's up in the air right now. And we don't know if he's going to allow it to move forward or not.
Thank you. The next question is, do we need a simple majority or more? And are we anticipating a possible surprise opposition as happened in the House vote? Has that issue been quelled? Thank you. Do you want to start, Kevin, or do you want me to?
I'll start, I guess. For the no, we don't need just a simple majority at this point. If it moves as a standalone bill, you want to be filibuster proof, so that would require 60 votes. But there, with certain packages, they can change rules and make it a simple majority vote depending on how things are looking towards the end of the year. But in general, a standalone bill would require approximately 60 to ensure success. And are anticipating any surprise opposition. I wouldn't say any surprise opposition. There's what you'll see in the Advocacy Associates portal in the talking points is a couple questions that might come up, variations of this question. It's in bold. It says, what issues or concerns exist about ELSA? And you'll see the answer that's provided that you can reference is several offices have stated that they believe the scope of ELSA's coverage is too broad because the term congenital anomaly is not defined and could allow for misuse of the bill by medical providers seeking coverage of procedures that do not treat congenital anomalies. Senator Baldwin's and Senator Ernst's offices have been working with the Health Committee and Legislative Council to determine what language could be added to address this concern, but nevertheless, ELSA still has widespread bipartisan support in the Senate with 42 co-sponsors. So that's how you can use that response. If anybody brings up questions about opposition, the term congenital anomaly is defined by the CDC and March Times, and there's been a lot of organizations putting in work, American Medical Association working on this thing. So if there's any misinformation, it's known at this point. There's nothing's going to be a surprise. Do you have anything to add, Becky?
No, I was just going to say it's not going to be a surprise. The Senate offices have already brought it up. There are a few Senate offices, and it's already been taken care of with those offices. We have flat out asked offices if they have any concerns related to the House vote or any misinformation, and many of the offices have said no, that the misinformation that was spread on the House vote was basically ridiculous, and they know that it doesn't cover additional things. So that's the only thing I have to add. I would just stick to the talking points, though. They were written very well and thoroughly so that it should answer any questions that come up. And there may be some offices who don't want to vote on this or don't want to support this, that you may get those disparaging comments from. And there's nothing that you can provide to them to change their mind. You can provide them every talking point or every journal article, and it is not going to matter. So just keep that in mind. Marcy, is the lead the one that will ask the ask? So what I would say is that yes, but you should all at the end of your story just say, we're really asking you to make this a priority. Every single person should just reiterate, we're asking you to make this a priority. It means a lot to our family or a lot to our patient community. Next is remind me, is there a cost to the bill? Yes, we have a talking point about this. Kevin, you want to go into that in more detail? Do you have it up?
Yeah, I have it up. Yeah, so I know this was a common question in the past, and following the House vote, that kind of spurred the actual Congressional Budget Office to publish their just in advance of the House vote. That's when they published the score, the CBO score. So you'll see that in your talking points. I'll try to read it pretty quickly, hit the high points. The CBO released its findings in March and April of this year. Overall budgetary impact was estimated to be $2.5 billion over the time period of 2022 to 2031. So that's over the next 9 years, primarily due to reduced federal tax revenue. However, and this is the very important part that we want you to talk about, the CBO does not dynamically score bills, and therefore the number presented by CBO does not account for expected cost savings from reduced or eliminated secondary health treatments. So, and there's a couple other sentences. I'm not going to read it all to you, but you'll see that in your talking points. Bottom line, ELSA would provide long overdue consistency in protecting patients nationwide while also generating cost savings. So yes, CBO scores 2.5 billion, but we believe it's wrong. And yes, we have been communicating with the CBO through the House and Senate sponsors for years on this point. Didn't matter, didn't sway their analysis. They have a set equations and assumptions that they make when they score these bills. So this number is the one we're dealing with right now.
Okay, if we're not a leader for our meeting, will we be fielding questions or will we be leaving those to our leader? So I would say if you feel comfortable answering questions, feel free to. Anybody in the group can, as long as you feel comfortable and that you feel confident that you know the appropriate answer to them. We just don't want to be sharing information that isn't correct. So if you don't know the answer to a question, you can always follow up with them afterwards. But if somebody in the group does know the answer to that question, feel free. Anybody in the group can answer the questions. Jessica has a couple of questions about the misinformation issue. Kevin has already talked about that. So just be sure that you use the talking points that are in the portal. That's going to be the most important thing to use. If my senator is on the help committee, is there anything specific I should say in addition to the other talking points? Yes, I would make sure that you reiterate the point that since they're on the help committee, that they have an opportunity to reach out to the ranking member and the chair of the help committee directly, explain why the bill is important to that senator, explain why they want the bill to become a priority, and explain why they want the bill to be put into an end of year package. Those help committee members have a lot of power and a lot of sway. So I would say make sure that you explain to them that you're expecting them to reach out to the help committee members as well as the Senate leadership. Anything else there, Kevin?
No, that's perfect.
Okay, Mary, will the asks be in the app so we can refer back to them? Yep, we have the asks listed. We have whether or not they're a co-sponsor or not, and that will be fixed within the next day or so. We have whether or not they're on the help committee, and then all of the additional talking points as well as the bill name and the bill number. So everything you need should be in the talking points. Who should I reach out to if I would like to share my personal story next Wednesday? So if you are registered for Advocacy Day, you should have received your schedule and you're all ready, and everybody in the meetings, as long as we have time, will be able to share your personal story. So if you have everybody should have been assigned a team lead for every meeting. So if you have a team lead, you can reach out to them and let them know that you would really like to share your story if time permits. We usually can get to everybody in all of the meetings. It isn't an issue. Sometimes I think California and Texas have quite a few members, so they have to rush through, but sometimes those meetings are longer too, so everybody can talk. So you shouldn't have to do anything to share your story. As long as you're present, the team lead should be able to call on you and you can share your story. If I didn't sign up my son to join the meeting, but he can now, is that okay? Yes. So he can either use your link, or we can also add an additional email address if you want to send it to me, Darcy, if he needs an additional link, if he's going to be at a different location. It's completely up to you what you want to do. If he's going to be at your house, then you could just have him join. So I think those are all the questions. We don't have anything in the chat. I'll just ask one more time, any other questions that anybody else wants to add in the Q&A? while we're waiting, I just want to say thank you to everybody. Thank you to all the supporting organizations. Thank you for all of the sponsors and all of the advocates. Like I mentioned before, I personally think that all of our stories shared together next Wednesday are going to push us over the hill, and that we're going to get this passed before the end of the year. Even though we have Advocacy Day, the work doesn't stop there. We're still going to have to email till the end of the year until we see some action. So just make sure that after you advocate that day, send those thank you notes. Make sure you reach out every week or 2 weeks just to make sure that this stays in front of all of the Senate offices. Lucy, how do you find if you're a leader? So that will be listed on the upper left-hand corner underneath where the member of the Senate is listed, and the either the staffer or the senator who will be attending the meeting. It should say team lead. And then also, if you go down to the bottom right-hand corner of the list of all the attendees in the meeting, it will have a yellow star next to it if you are a leader of that meeting. John, it says chat appears to be disabled, at least for me. I'll look into that as well on the site and see if we can get that fixed. Yeah, and thank you, John. Thank you for everybody for joining. We really appreciate it. We couldn't do this without you. You're all the reason why we've garnered so much success in this Congress this year. So thank you for to everybody. And Donna, I saw your message. I will look into that. Kevin, is there anything else you want to add before we end?
No, just thank you all again. Really appreciate it. We're so close, guys. Like this, passing the House is huge. So let's be part of that 1% that gets signed into law, and we can do it with your help. So thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good night, and we'll see you next Wednesday virtually on the Hill. Bye.